Yup. Let's do it. Let's do it. Week 2 breakdown. Here we go. Man, we had some good games this week. And honestly, we're just going to jump right into this one. Joe versus Graham. This one, man, I got a lot to say about it. Really interesting game, though. So, shout out the Lycan Rockets. Classic lead, Lycanroc, Rocks, Taunt. I think he was a Life Orb variant, though. Alright, so... Yep, Toxapex wants to get out of there. It's not running any water coverage. That's something I want to mention for Graham. Like, running Scald on Toxapex. Scald and Knockoff, I would say, are its two best moves. It's probably the best knockoff abuser, given how many switches it forces. You would have been able to knock off Celesteel's weakness policy in this case, had Celesteel switched into it. And that's something everybody should keep in mind when playing Toxapex, is that it is insanely good at using knockoff because it forces so many switch-ins. But in this case, we see the double out, and now we have Volcanion in front of Celesteela, and Joe got insanely greedy here. I get the process of I'm going to live anything from this Volcanion unless it's specs, or I guess Life Orb if you wanted to do that, but I don't really know why you would risk that. Like, you have a Blastoise just sitting there that you can go into. Celesteela looks like a really good late game cleaner, and we're going to talk about it once it gets down to the end. It would have been really nice to keep your ground immunity alive. Just, yeah. So the missed Air Slash, that does suck a little bit. Even if Air Slash hit though, yeah, Volcanion's going to die on the next one, and Celesteela would be still alive, but it would probably die to a Sucker Punch plus Fake Out from Shift Tree anyway. So at the end of the day, Volcanion would have been dead, and we would have been in some sort of situation like this anyway. So we see the Life Orb, Coco, U-turn out. Graham makes a really good play here going for the U-turn. Instead of just trying to take the damage with Facade, realize you're not going to kill him, you're going to die to Water Pulse. Good U-turn out. Fake Out here. So the next play is really interesting. Joe has a Ditto to switch into to get a Grass and Dark, resistance. Otherwise, the rest of his team doesn't really want to eat a Leaf Blade. And that's something on Graham, your end. Realize he doesn't have any grass resistances left on his team because Celesteela is dead. Clicking Leaf Blade here is super clean. There's really no drawbacks to it. But I believe he goes for the Sucker Punch here. Yeah. So with Sucker Punch, I calced it. Leaf Blade would kill Blastoise at 53%. Sucker Punch would not. And basically, super effective moves do twice as much damage. And then you get your stab bonus, which, based off Shift Tree, he's Grass and Dark type, so Grass and Dark type moves do 1.5 times on top of that calculation for super effective and everything. So yeah, going for Leaf Blade there definitely would have been the right play. Just get a little bit more damage down, but it doesn't really matter at the end. So, when a Ditto switches into you, it knows that, they know Ditto's moves, right? Because it's whatever you set on your Mon that it copied. So on your Shift Tree, you only had like Fake Out, Knockoff, Sucker Punch, and Leaf Blade. If Ditto goes for a Fake Out, that's basically a wasted turn on it because it's most likely Choice Scarfed. It can't Fake Out the second turn, it's going to switch out. Now, you might want to keep your item on your Shift Tree and switch into like the knockoff, or just stay in, or you switch out to a different thing to eat the knockoff or whatever. In this situation, Shift Tree can't do crap to Heracross, right? Heracross resists both Grass and Dark type moves. So like, Heracross just seems super free. Plus, it can't get knocked off because it's holding the Heracross Ignite. So that would have been the optimal play instead of letting your Toxapex get knocked off here. Rocky Helmet, not the end of the world, because realistically, Ditto is the only thing taking damage from the Rocky Helmet, so might as well get some use out of it. But you didn't have to get damage on your Toxapex. You could have just gotten a tiny little bit on your Heracross, because that knockoff was going to be super weak. since it was only going to be 65 base power, since it doesn't take off your item, and you resist it. So that plus that would have allowed like a pretty free bulk up opportunity from Heracross afterwards, because you know you're going to get bulkier after you Mega Evolve. You're not really going to take as much damage moving forward. So yeah, Blastoise, pretty easy switch into Toxapex here. Reveals the Earthquake. So going to your Shiftry, really good middle ground play here. Joe was predicting the Gliscor, which honestly, I probably would have fallen for that bait too. You know, I show my ground coverage, he goes into his ground immunity. I try to click something that's super effective into that. So really good middle ground here going into Shiftry. And let's see what we click here. Goes for the fake out. Yep, getting a little bit more chip. And we double out off of out of the Ditto. So Ditto just came in, got some chip, and pivoted into Coco, who ended up getting its life orb knocked off, which is pretty important for hidden power ice calculations later down. So since he doesn't have his life orb, he can't kill Gliscor 90% with hidden power ice anymore. Pretty safe switch in here. Yeah, I think that's the right play on Graham's end. On Joe's part, I don't think you can lose Coco yet, because I mean, you have Nidoking for Toxapex. I'd still want the speed for Ninetales and Heracross though, so yeah, keeping Coco alive I think is the right play. And then really cool play going for the Facade here. He didn't have to go for Earthquake because Coco was going to die to the Facade anyway. And what I was talking about, the same type attack bonus, if you're not aware of it, any move that you use that is the same type as the Pokemon. So in Gliscor's case, if he uses Earthquake, since he's a ground type, it gets a 1.5 times boost. So essentially Earthquake now is a 150 base power move. And we'll talk about this in the end game here. Graham was clicking Facade because it was a 140 base power move, opposed to Earthquake being a 100, and it's 140 because he's toxic, and it's 70 times 2, right? But because of the stab bonus, plus, you know, then you do the calculations with super effective and yada yada, Earthquake actually always does more unless it's resisted or immune than Facade coming out of Gliscor. So really good Facade play there, getting rid of the ground immunity. So now he can just spam Earthquake. And at this point, let's see. I guess there hasn't been anything to scout if it was a Scarf Nidoking yet. However, U-turn's not the right play. If you're going to stay in, just go for the EQ and get your kill. I would have just hard switched out and seen what Nidoking was going to do to me, and see if I can see if he switches moves. I know he's not choice locked, and then my Gliscor being Jolly, max attack, max speed, is going to be faster than him. Or if he doesn't switch moves, maybe I think he's choice scarfed and I can kind of get like a setup opportunity with Heracross or something. I don't really agree with the U-turn here, that if you're going to stay in, just kill what's in front of you. And Earthquake always just blows it up. So, and I know it was bulky, so maybe it wouldn't have killed it 100%, but definitely now at 81%, it's an Earthquake range. So yeah, good call going to the Ninetales, going to your Ice Resist. The Aurora Veil, really good tech this week, but then Psychic Fangs from Joe to kind of nullify that was actually nasty. And just enough to live the Ice Beam. If Ninetales was running Blizzard this week instead of Ice Beam, that's a dead Lycan Rocket. Gonna keep calling it by the nickname. Okay, so they both go down here. Now, at this point, so yeah, this is right? If I'm Joe at this point, I think I do go into Blastoise to pressure Gliscor and Heracross. However, as soon as I see Toxapex out there, I just got to go into my Nidoking. I can't let Blastoise take any damage, and now between Venoshock and Hail damage, it's going to be an Earthquake range from Gliscor. So this is kind of a throw on Joe's part, just staying in. There's no reason to overpredict. At this point, your Blastoise is dead, right? I mean, there's no point in saving it. You just go for your EQ and try to take him out. But yeah, Heracross, good natural special defense, but not able to live the coverage between Ice Beam and Flamethrower without pre-Mega evolving. And right here, Facade not being super effective, it did 52. A super effective Earthquake probably would have done 120 percentage, right? Because Earthquake basically has more base power than Facade, and then you multiply it by 2. So yeah, it probably would have done about 120% to the Nidoking. And yeah, if Graham just clicks Earthquake here, he clicks it 3 times and he wins 2-0. So that is how close this game came down to. Turn 30, it was literally just 1 move difference. All he had to do was click Earthquake, and that's a 2-0 reverse sweep out of Gliscor, but Facade doesn't pick up the knockout. Ice Beam comes in, and then Josie able to clean it up with an Earth Power after this. So Nidoking gets some nice kills this week. But yeah, really good game. You guys played really well. I don't really have a whole lot to say other than that. I think Joe has been putting his Blastoise in probably some of the most shitty positions I've seen somebody play their Mega so far. Keeping it in front of Mew last week and then letting it take that damage from Toxapex, basically making it so if Graham did click Earthquake, that was GG. Yeah, just go into your Nidoking in that sense. Like, realize nothing on your team is able to outspeed Gliscor at this point, and if you do outspeed it, aka Coco, you're not killing it in 1 hit at the percentage it was at. It was at like 90-ish%, and you don't have a Life Orb anymore. So yeah, you just got to really keep that in mind when you're kind of navigating these end games. But yeah, that's just my little insight on that, and we're gonna go on to the next game. Pause real quick. Okay, we are back with the second game. We got Berg versus Sato. Berg's plan this week really is to get rid of Galarian, Slowking, and Garchomp and let his birds cook. I gave him a couple tips before the game, and this is something that if you guys watched my live game versus Dodge, always scout for stuff that's faster than you. If you notice that something on your team has a good time against him, don't let it stay in unnecessarily if you haven't scouted to see that it's going to be able to get its hit off. And we'll talk about that once we get into the game here. Ty's actually running double Scarf. He's got Scarf Rotom, which we see kills Swellow here. Rotom completely walled by Steelix. I was a little scared telling Berg in pregame. You know, we were prepping a little bit before, and I was like, okay, Steelix is always your answer to Rotom. And I didn't want to get it too confusing, but I was extremely nervous that Rotom was going to run Trick and then Trick like a Choice Scarf onto Steelix, and it was going to be completely neutered for the rest of the game. Thankfully, Tyler wasn't using that, but Berg didn't actually switch into the Rotom anyway with the Steelix, and yeah, now, I mean, he's really just playing from behind for the rest of the game here, and we're going to see something pretty unlucky happen on the second turn. Pretty free V-Create, and then a crit. And given the Slowking spread, given Victini's spread, Power Gem, even with the defense drop, the special defense drop, a crit Power Gem still only had a 43% chance of killing. So that's like a 1 in 40 turn right there. Insanely unlucky. And yeah, I mean, at this point, Berg just doesn't have enough offensive power to break through Ty's team. Ty has such a bulky team. You see an Earthquake from a Steelix only just 29% to a Garchomp. Yeah, there's just not enough. And now he only has Pidgeot as like any sort of chance of breaking through with like Hurricane Confusions onto that Galarian Slowking. You know, Steelix is going to get bopped by Flamethrowers. It doesn't even have that good of an attack stat to begin with because he's running especially defensive. He increased 1 percentage point on that Earthquake there. But yeah, at this point, Tyler's really just playing Galarian Slowking kind of correctly, letting it get its Regenerator back up. It's always a free switch into Weezing. He can kind of throw off a Future Sight. He can do whatever. The Confuse could have came in clutch, but it powers through, calls the Steelix switch. And that's something when you guys are playing your games, you can really condition your opponent into a certain move, right? So at that point, Tyler saw that, I mean, given Berg doesn't have the most in-depth team at this point because he lost Swallow and Victini, but with the 4 ES remaining, Steelix was always going to be his switch into Slowking at this point, which makes sense. It doesn't have stab super effective coverage on it like it does with Sludge Bomb onto a Primarina, but Tyler was conditioned at Berg always going into Steelix anytime Slowking was out, so he's able to call that and go for the Flamethrower on the switch, and now Steelix is in 34%. It's in another Flamethrower range. But you can use that to your advantage, though. You can go into a check over and over again, and then as soon as you feel like they're going to predict you to go into that, go into something else, attack into whatever they're switching into. Maybe they're doing a double switch. Maybe they're trying to set up on you going in. You can condition them into thinking you're doing something and then completely capitalize on that. I know E did a really good job of that. Let's see. Oh, man, I can't remember your opponent in Season 1, but yeah, you did a really good job of conditioning somebody into thinking that. So yeah, that's pretty much how Tyler was able to go for that Flamethrower on Steelix right there. And given he still has all 6 mons, he's still like really chilling overall. He can kind of make some riskier plays too. Yep, Steelix finally on the Rotom. It can't do anything to him. It doesn't have Trick. He's totally free. Let's see here. Yeah, yeah, not really a whole lot Berg could do there. I mean, probably still go into Wheezing. But now that Steelix is out, he doesn't have any ground immunity, and Rotom can kind of eat. And this play right here, the crit was super unfortunate on on Wheezing. Let's see that here. Yeah, super unfortunate. Let's see. Wait. Okay. Yeah. Berg went into Pidgeot on the Garchomp feint. Okay, that makes sense. All right, and then switched out into Wheezing, and then just switched back into Pidgeot to take another Thunderbolt. You knew it was Choice Scarfed already because it was faster than your Swellow originally. Primarina probably eats a hit. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's right. I forgot it that they had this encounter at the end, but crit into special attack a drop. That was pretty crazy. And that because of that crit, it would actually die to the next Moonblast as well. But yeah, man, Slowking is just so fat. It only took 24% from Shadow Ball, and then Oko did 57 with with a Sludge Bomb. Just insane. Yeah, very lucky game on Tyler's end. The crit didn't matter on Swellow at the beginning, but Victini's crit from the Power Gem Slowking definitely did. But yeah, that's just a little bit of my insight on that, and we're gonna go on to the next one. All right, this is me versus Dodge. I'm gonna switch sides here. Actually, I'm going to play this from Dodge's end, try to get into his brain, because you guys can see in my live game what my thought process was for every move. Oh god, music. So loud. But okay, yeah, my initial plan going into this game, if you guys haven't watched that yet, is I wanted to get as many kills as possible with Lopunny, really kind of buff its KD up, make it a nice MVP candidate this season. I did bring the Regenerator Core, pretty toxic of me, I get that, but I brought 2 tier 5s. I got Ferroseed and Rampardos. Essentially the plan was Ferroseed and Rampardos would be able to deal with Tangela, which they actually ended up doing in this game with knockoff from Ferroseed and Fire Blast from Rampardos. I kind of fudged up and made my Rampardos adamant instead of naive nature, but that's whatever. Yeah, so basically what I was talking about in like the Berg versus Ty game, I'm always like scouting for Scarfers. I'm really nervous of a Scarf Arrow, Gengar, or Hitmonlee to Oko my Lopunny. Scarf Arcanine, Tangela, well, Tangela Scarfed isn't even faster than me, but Scarf Dugtrio or Arcanine can't Oko Lopunny, so I'm not really too concerned about them if they're faster than me. But yeah, pretty free fake out here. I can kind of see if I can get a read on what item he is. Got nothing from that. So I'm like, okay, he could be Scarfed. He didn't switch out. You know, I'm not going to take a dual wing beat with my Lopunny, so I can go into my Slowking. Or Slowbro. And yeah, now we see Substitute, and this is a sub-toxic Aerodactyl. Now that Toxic Miss is actually pretty nasty. in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it matters too much because it's only subtoxic, and I can probably indefinitely switch between Tornadus and Slowbro in order to reset my toxic timer and then chip him down. Now with pressure, it's a really good subtoxic mon, and I actually, before the game, I was really close to not running Assault Vest on Tornadus, and instead of Icy Wind, I was going to run Taunt to possibly catch like a Gyarados, Mega Gyarados Dragon Dance or something. And if I had Taunt on Tornadus, Aerodactyl would have been complete taunt fodder, and it would have just had to struggle or switch out anytime Tornadus was in. So yeah, Toxic definitely sucks missing on Slowbro, but like I said, I think I would have been able to deal with the Toxic timer. But yeah, I don't want to teleport with Slowbro there. I just want to go into my Toxic immunity. I don't know what the fourth move is yet on Aerodactyl. I said in the video, you know, if he's running Fire Blast as his fourth move, kudos to him. He catches the Ferroseed. That's nasty. It seemed unnecessary to prep just for a tier 5 with that. But yeah, and I should have realized he doesn't have leftovers, so Subtoxic, Protect, and Roost is probably the set. But yeah, pretty easy switch here for him to go into Arcanine, and I can go for the knockoff. I was hoping Tangela would be the switch in originally, but getting rid of Heavy Duty Boots on Arcanine is really cool too, because now it's going to take spikes and Stealth Rock damage. Slowbro, it doesn't die to anything. We see he's a special Arcanine here. Dugtrio to trap, but I teleport out into my Lopunny and I'm able to break a Sash if he is that. But I see he's actually leftovers after this turn, and I go, okay, well, I can just kill you Frustration with this next move. Tangela comes in, it still has a Violate, and Frustration only does 23%. That's just insane. It's so bulky. It has like 110 base defense or something like that, and then with a Violate, it's just sky high. Really cool mon, really good, nice regenerator. It felt like I had a pretty good Ferroseed switch in there. I was a little worried about maybe a Hidden Power Fire, but I can get up a layer of spikes after I lived that, or switched into Toxic. Slowbro is always going to be my switch into Aerodactyl now, and I can teleport out pretty safely and get some momentum up. Now, at this point, he sees that I have knockoff and spikes. I was thinking he was going to switch out again into Arcanine, given that he probably would value his Violite, but he just stays in Pain Splits. I think his idea is he just doesn't want anything on his team to get knocked off at this point. So he's just going to stay in, try to chip me down a little bit. I can't really do anything to him. Knockoff is my only attacking move, and he's immune to Leech Seed, which is my my other move. So I can just get my 3 layers of spikes up. Everything on his team now is going to take 1/4 of their health when they switch in if they're grounded. But yeah, I get a T-Wave off, I get all my layers up. Arcanine takes 25% on the switch. And he doubles out here into Aerodactyl, which I think he was trying to catch my Slowbro, be able to get a Toxic off on something. I think the core issue with Dodge's team running like a Subtoxic Arrow is he didn't really have enough of a defensive backbone between Tangela and Arcanine to be able to deal with something like a Nidoqueen. You know, he just didn't have like the best switch-ins for a couple of my wall breakers, and that didn't really support a Subtoxic that well. But yeah, I called his switch, actually. I didn't really think he was going to go for Toxic, obviously, on the Nidoqueen, but I thought he would switch out into maybe Dugtrio or something to try to catch it. I am Shed Shell, so I could have switched out anyway, but yeah. And I still haven't seen his 4th move, so I'm still kind of scouting for that. And at that point, I was like, all right, well, if he wants to Toxic me, that's fine. I think I'm going to be able to deal with that. I saw that he took Spikes damage, so he's not Boots, but I wasn't able to confirm whether or not he was Scarf. So I just need to go into my Assault Vest Tornadus, which is able to live anything from him. And this doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It didn't change the game at all, but it would have been nice just for my Lopunny to be able to get more kills. Had that Focus Blast hit and I saw he took Life Orb damage, I would have been able to play around it a little bit more, and you'll see later in the game I switched out. But yeah, at this point, Dodge is just trying to figure out how he's going to get some damage on me. Tangela seems like a good stay-in for Rampardos, but without a Violate, it's going to die to that Fire Blast. Even with, I think it dies at 55%, because I'm Life Orb Sheer Force. And Dugtrio actually didn't have attacking moves. It was also another like taunt fodder. But yeah, it goes for the swagger here. And I was just going for the whirlwind. I was fine with losing my Rampardos there, because at this point I think Lopunny is just going to kind of clean up for me. But yeah, Arcanine gets that up. I hit myself in confusion. I live the Scorching Sands, and I hit myself in confusion again. But it's alright, I was just sacking Rampardos just to get some spikes damage. Yep. Still haven't seen if this is Scarf or not yet. I see it's Bullet Punch. I'm like, okay, well, I can just teleport out here. Even if he knocks off, I'm Colbur Berry. I don't need the Colbur Berry for like a Gyarados because he didn't bring it. And I saw he switched moves, so he's not choice locked. So I can just go for the CC, knock it out. Frustration was probably the better play at that point. 2 Frustrations kill Aerodactyl. Yep, able to get 2 kills right there. Gengar comes in. I haven't revealed if it's Scarf or not, so I do have to make my switch. And I just go to sack Slowbro here because I don't need it anymore. And it dies to Life Orb Recoil. But yeah, I can just go for the Scald or Teleport. Yeah, Teleport. Go into Lopunny, and based off of previous damage, I know his Aerodactyl's not like super bulky or anything. It has enough bulk though to live that CC, which is a little annoying. And I actually forget he has pressure, so I just start burning CCs right here. I'm trying to catch like the Arcanine on the switch. Should have just went for Frustration all of these times, but it is what it is. All right, he goes down. Lopunny goes down to 22%. Arcanine comes in, and now he can't switch out anymore, so I just switch out of my my Lopunny. And at this point, yeah, I'm just looking for a way to get Lopunny in order to get the last kill. So I'm teleporting out, try to sack my Nidoqueen. Just by getting a little bit more damage on him, I can guarantee a close combat kill. Or like a fake out into Frustration, because I don't have any more CCs. I have -1 actually after that pressure. So I just go for the rocks right there just to die to the next one. That wasn't trying to be BM or anything. I was just trying to get a little bit of chip on Arcanine. And something I forgot about during the game is that with Scrappy on Lopunny, I'm actually immune to Intimidate now too, which is actually really, really nice for it. So I'll keep that in mind next time I play like E or something with Intimidate. But yeah, GG's to dodge. Really, really sick sets on your Dugtrio and your Aerodactyl. But yeah, not having hazard control, and I was able to just get my layers of spikes up and really just break down his team that way. Been getting some pretty good use out of Rampardos last 2 weeks, so pretty good. All right, we're going to go into the next game and pause again real quick. All right, we got Tommy versus Cordell in our 4th matchup. Really cool Tapu Fini running Nature's Madness. That's one of my favorite like Tapu moves. Really cool to break down some checks like Aggron for sure. Especially since Aggron doesn't have recovery, and even Rotom since it's not running Pain Split this week. Yeah, really good tech. Got Cordell off to a really good start. Yeah, Tommy just fires off the Leaf Storm. Volt Switch probably is, I mean, obviously in hindsight, it's the ideal play. Given he doesn't have any ground types this week, he didn't bring his Gastrodon. And yeah, Leaf Storm probably wasn't OHKOing Tapu Fini anyway, so yeah, just going for the Volt Switch here would have been better. But yeah, hard switch into Zygarde, good call. Eat the Magma Storm up pretty easily. This is Scarf Zygarde, so Tommy's game plan is really just get rid of Tangrowth somehow and let Scarf Zygarde clean. Unfortunate Toxic there, not paying attention to the terrain. It happens, like that's definitely understandable. Toxic would have been so huge on Tangrowth, and we'll talk about the end game. Tommy kind of misplayed the end game choosing his sacks. There was a slight way that he could have won, given the position at the end, if he was able to Toxic stall with a Miltank onto the Tangrowth, but because it's Sap Sipper and he can't Leech Seed up, so yeah, Tommy not realizing that Miltank has a faster base stat total. Yeah, he just really needed to take a breath at this point. He was playing, these first 7 turns happened within like a minute, right? Everything was bang, bang, bang. Like, it was basically as fast as I could play it on this, it was happening, right? Yeah, it was just going so fast. So yeah, Tommy just kind of scouting out, stalling out some Misty Terrain turns. We see its Calm Mind Finny. Pretty big burn here because now all damage done to Rotom is going to be permanent. And we see the Volt Switch now out of Tom. On Cordell's part, at this point, he just needs to keep his Tangrowth alive for Zygarde. Basically, everything else in the team should be able to check something else on Tommy's team other than the Zygarde. So as long as Tangrowth is looking pretty healthy, the rest of Tommy's team should be kept in check. A really good build on Cordell, bringing those 6 this week. Earthquake here. You know, the idea is maybe Meatloaf, the Heatran, wants to stay in a Magma Storm thinking that he can OHKO Metagross, but it's Assault Vest and he'd be able to live, and then Tommy could kill with Earthquake. Yep, just going into Miltank here in the Tangrowth. Just going to kind of let this play. I think it was pretty standard so far from here. There is one notable play in about 3 turns on the Finny switch in that I'm pretty interested in. But yeah, man, Rocky Helmet Tangrowth is just putting in so much work. Alright, so we see Finny switch in here with 1 turn of Misty Terrain left. It's actually really huge for Tommy on this end, because now that the terrain's not up, this is a free Toxic. You know, Meatloaf doesn't want to switch into a Body Press, so he can, and there's no Mega Diancie yet, so it's not going to get bounced back onto him. But yeah, Banded Zapdos, dude. This thing just absolutely cooks. I don't know if Tommy calced this, but Tommy's Aggron actually lives a non-banded close combat. I think he does, because I believe he goes into a Zygarde here. Yep. With the minus defense, 1000 Arrows doesn't kill, but he's able to make the double and scare out Zapdos. Yep, good call. A free Icicle Crash here onto the Finny. Goes for the knockoff. So now all toxic damage is going to start wearing down. He doesn't have any form of recovery anymore. Pretty cool knockoff there. But yep, Rotom, once again, free Volt Switch. Yep, get that momentum going. But with Regenerator, man, that Tangrowth, it's just not going anywhere. He's able to get rid of the Heatran, really nice. Leaf Storm is a little bit more free now that Tangrowth doesn't appreciate it. And Miltank, just being as bulky as it is, able to eat up 2 triple axles without any issues. Goes to the Body Press, Rotom Sack on the close combat. That's something Zapdos does, man. You just gotta pick a sack and play through it. And let's see, I think we Ice Shard, yep, try to get the Zapdos out. Once Zapdos is gone, that actually makes Miltank like really solid here. But no Misty Terrain, that's really huge. So right here, obviously this is hindsight and I can be critical knowing what actually happened, but I knew Diancie was Iron Defense and Diamond Storm given the team pace that Cordell put into his private channel. If I'm Tommy, yeah, I don't expect the Iron Defense, but I have to know that Diamond Storm has a 50% chance of getting that defense raised. Now, if Cordell doesn't get it, Earthquake OHKOs, and you're able to easily live that Diamond Storm. Metagross, even at 34%, feels like a really safe switch-in still. Worst case scenario, you take a hit, and then you Bullet Punch, and then die to like Rocky Helmet on Tangrowth. But your Mamoswine has more health still to be able to possibly, you know, live a Giga Drain and Icicle Crash into that, or still have it around for like an Ice Shard on Zapdos. So yeah, just going for the Ice Shard here, just get a little chip. Metagross forces the switch out because of Bullet Punch, and you see the Rocky Helmet damage really accumulating. Tangrowth, it was just such a problem. But yeah, Miltank, always a good switch in here. And really, we'll play it once Diancie goes down on this next turn. So yeah, Miltank, no issues with Diancie, so it's able to just take it out with a Body Press here. And now, at this point, Miltank can win if he can get rid of Zapdos. And so if you're Cordell, you need to know that Zapdos is your absolute priority at this point. You have to keep this bad boy alive. Rocks are putting up a ton of work. He didn't get the Mega off on Diancie, so Tommy was able to get Rocks up pretty early in the game, and that chip damage is actually really accumulating, especially on Zapdos. Now that it's down at 53%, I think it needed to be just a little bit lower to die to the Scarf Zygarde 1000 Arrows. So right here, you have to sack your Metagross, and then go into your Zygarde and maybe double out into Miltank and get a Toxic off on either Tangrowth or something switching in, and then you can kind of play from there. But yeah, sacking Miltank basically meant that Tangrowth wins at this point. I think Cordell could have played around enough where Tommy didn't have enough sacks left, and Zapdos could have just claimed something with a close combat every time it came in. But Tommy completely lost the game at that point, losing Miltank because there's no way for his team to break a Tangrowth anymore. Yep, even a crit does 18%. But yeah, it's pretty much over at this point. And Tangrowth kind of just cleans up. So yeah, pretty much covered that game. Cordell, really good job building your team this week. Really solid build. And Tommy, if you just took a breath at the beginning of the game, I think you would have had yourself in a little bit better position moving on. So I'm going to pause and then we'll go on to the next game. All right, we got our final game here. E versus MJC. Just really cool game. Quite a dramatic twist at the end. So MGC didn't bring a lot of stuff that he was prepping for. It made a decent amount of sense to bring his Melodic, but he didn't have it. And let's see, and Beware, that was another thing that he really wasn't expecting. Rinarigas, yes and no. But yeah, Alolan Muck, I mean, once that gets in here, you'll see that he has a really difficult time kind of figuring out what he goes into. Like nothing on his team really wants to switch in on this. You know, he ends up just tossing the Violate on his Chansey to get some momentum. But yeah, he makes some crazy reads the next two plays. He goes for the Stone Edge on the Zapdos, and then boom, knockoff on the Rinarigas. Yeah, really sick double play right there. Landorus actually isn't running Earthquake, so he really doesn't have a great way to get through Muck. You're gonna have to play around it a little bit. A little unfortunate miss on the Will-O-Wisp. Zapdos comes in, get momentum with Volt Switch, and then you can kind of, get into your Gallade, something a little faster than him, and he goes for the Sword Stance here, which was pretty brazy, and then MJC made an equally crazy move going for the Roost right in front of it. But yeah, it goes down to Ice Punch. He doesn't get the Static. I think it was Static Zapdos. Goes into Mimikyu and Beware. I don't disagree with SD. A little aggressive, but yeah, I mean, really, what are you gonna do? Beware is actually a massive threat, especially with Rocky Helmet. And Gallade's not running close combat. Even with close combat, Beware has Fluffy and max HP. It was going to be able to live that and kill back with Double Edge after Rocky Helmet recoil, and especially with the defense drops too. So Beware's finally out of the way. Landorus comes in, and yeah, this is really the turning point of the game, I would say. Yeah, Rocks are up, Rotom's at 82%, Lando's getting a little bit chipped here, Chansey doesn't have a Violate anymore, and yeah, now Landorus goes down to a Hidden Power Ice, so he doesn't have Intimidate anymore. Really at this point, MJC can kind of just hold on and keep Chansey as low as he needs to. Really nothing stopping a Sword Stance Pinsir at this point. So, you know, he had all this momentum early game, but losing Landorus, he doesn't really have an answer anymore to be able to deal with Pinsir, and we're going to see this game ends in 4 turns right here. After Charizard, aka the Yard, shout out, goes down to Quick Attack. You know, Rotom's going to be in range of CC after Rocks, and Gallade's also in Quick Attack range. Just like the fastest flip on a head sort of game I've ever seen. Yeah, MJC played Pinsir extremely well that game. Kept it in the back, and even though Rocks were up, he didn't Mega Evolve it before that, and was able to you know, outlast the toxic damage. Yep, that I mean, pretty self-explanatory right there. You know, E lost his check for it, and Pinsir just ate. So yeah, GG's guys. That was a really fun game to watch in real time. Yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, that's the breakdown for week 2. Congrats to the winners and everybody. And I already put out the matches in the game announcement, so make sure you're getting in touch with everybody, who you're playing, and let's try to get this thing going. So I will catch you guys in the Discord. Peace.